Am I live streaming? Is this working? Test, test. 1, 2. 1, 2. Should be able to hear it on my other computer, right? You are live. The internet can totally see you right now. Yep, seems to be working. It's a bit broken up and maybe not the best stream quality in the world, but it will do. Hey, how's it going? It's Friday night. I should be working on client work, but I needed to do this video because this was one that I delayed for the last week due to there were like public holidays and stuff here in England, so I never got around to doing it and ended up being crushed by the amount of work I had to do. So I think it was just over a week ago that I sent out a link to a Google form with, hey, if you've got any questions about WebVR, let me know what they are and I'll try and answer them any way I can. I managed to get 6 responses, which I was happy and disappointed about at the same time. I was hoping for more, but 6 questions is 6 questions. I can answer them right now. So the first question, I also didn't ask for any names or anything, so whoever asked these questions, thank you. I'll be happy to answer them. Hopefully you get to see them. So what equipment do I need to get started is the first question. Which equipment do you need to get started? So you probably, if you've been able to type this question, you've probably got enough equipment to get started, but in general, it's general web dev equipment for the coding. So a laptop that has access to the internet, and you can have, if you have a browser on it, you could use glitch.com or CodePen. You can sort of get started there with WebVR. In order of viewing it, again, the great thing about WebVR is that it's backwards compatible. It will work in your browser even without a sort of HMD connected to it. If by equipment you mean like VR equipment, which VR equipment you need to get started, I think the sort of minimal, if I've got one around here somewhere, I have, is something like this. It's a Google Cardboard, and you just slot a phone in like that. That's like the minimum that you can get away with. It's not the best experience, but if you kind of just want to do like really sort of basic 360 stuff with gaze-based interaction. So gaze-based meaning, you know, when you look somewhere, you can interact with something. You can use a cursor attached to the camera. I think, you know, I say, you know, I'm holding up a Pixel, which is a great phone, but a decent phone, an iPhone, no, not an iPhone. Get like an Android, like a cheap Android phone, one that has access to a decent browser. The Samsung Internet Browser is now available on, I think, in beta on the App Store. That's the minimum equipment you need to view VR. Now you can then step up by getting something like an S7 and a Gear VR, and you can, you know, this again is still quite minimum, but you can now get like the controller, which gives you a little bit, you know, you're still only in like 3DoF world, which is 3 degrees of freedom. You've only got like the pan and the tilt and the yaw and stuff like that. Again, this is a 3DoF controller. You could go for something like the Pixel, you know. Again, that's I don't know what a Pixel costs now. £600. I say £600, but I say 600. Now, if you want to get into bigger budget like VR stuff, then you're gonna have to buy an Oculus Rift or a Vive. Those two are the the best ones to get just because of support and stuff like that. And on top of that, you're gonna need a PC to run the software, because Vive and Oculus aren't supported in Linux or Mac. So you'll need to buy either a laptop or build your own PC. Now, build your own PC is going to be a lot cheaper. I would say you could build a very decent VR ready PC for around £650 to £700. You can buy a very good VR ready laptop nowadays for £1,400. Now, again, you might already have a laptop that's capable of supporting VR, and you can check things like Steam and for VR support, like in terms of if your laptop, it literally has a test that you can download and it will run your computer through the test and tell you if your laptop or if your computer is ready for VR. Then you will need to buy the Oculus or the Vive, and those just different. You can buy, I think you could pick up an Oculus now for around £500. I think you can pick a Vive up for around the same amount. With the Oculus, there are a bunch of bundles right now where you can buy the Oculus with the touch controllers, and that all depends what you want to build. And it comes down to, do you want the things that you want to, you either let the things that you want to build dictate how much money you spend, or you let how much money you have available to spend dictate the type of things that you're able to build. But to get started, very simply, you need a phone. You don't even need a cardboard headset. You need a phone and a laptop to write the code on. Should be enough to get anyone started. So that's the first question. Second one is, should I learn WebVR now or wait? Wow, that's a good question, because I'm working in WebVR and I'd be like, no, you need to learn WebVR now. Should you learn WebVR? If you have the time and you're looking for something new to learn, and you're curious about virtual reality on the web, then yeah, absolutely. You should, as a developer, you should always be learning. You should always be pushing yourself forward, and but you should also always be working on things that genuinely, I suppose, make you interested, and I suppose fuel that creativity that you might have. So yeah, I think you should be, if you want to learn new things, there's nothing wrong with learning WebVR. Know that I'm not saying that you should learn WebVR because it's going to make you the richest developer in the world. Far from none. Like, it's in a very early stage. This is like asking, should I learn React VR, or should I learn React.js in 2013? It would have been a really great idea to, because you would have sort of 2 years on learning React before React became a fairly popular requirement of developers. Or if you were to learn sort of Backbone.js in 2009, I suppose it would be. I'm trying to think when Backbone.js, I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember when Backbone.js came out. But sort of learning, if you were learning any of those things early on, it might have seemed a bit a tad foolish, or maybe a bit too early. You felt like you were too early, but you're putting yourself on the bleeding edge, and you're making yourself more valuable in the future. So should you learn WebVR now? You should definitely be considering it. Like, it should, I don't know how much of a commodity, like a requirement, it's going to be in 2 or 3 years time, but it'll fuel a lot of creativity. You'll learn a lot of other things while learning WebVR. You'll learn a lot of things about doing 3D graphics on the web. You'll learn about APIs. You'll learn about debugging APIs. You'll get to play with really cool tools. learn WebVR if it's not going to be a detriment to, you know, what you need. You know, if you need, if you think it's going to give you like a really well-paying job in the next few months, then I don't know if WebVR is going to do that. Learn it if you're curious. Learn it if you really want to sort of use it to express something artistically, or if you think it's going to be of a value to yourself or your company, then you should learn WebVR now. But if you're sort of like on the fence, then you should wait. You'll know when you want to learn WebVR. Its time will come. A-Frame or React VR. So A-Frame and React VR are probably the most popular web VR frameworks / libraries / tools / utilities, whatever you want to refer to them as. They are the two most popular ones right now. And if you are someone who's developed with React, you might find using React VR a lot easier than picking up something new. If you are, let's say, what else could you, like if you are someone who's just getting in, like who's just like got understanding of HTML and CSS and some basic JavaScript, then A-Frame's a really, really great option for you, because A-Frame makes building web VR really nice, and it has a really great community, and it has excellent documentation, and it's been in development for I want to say like 2 years now, so it's very mature, where React VR is a very minimal feature set right now, and it's targeted towards people who've already been doing React, and it's very early on. Like it's only been about a week since the code has actually been available. Now that doesn't mean that React VR isn't going to become a lot bigger and a lot more valuable. It just means that I think right now, and unless you're a hardcore React developer and you don't want to sort of step outside that Facebook ecosystem in terms of, you know, learning, you're probably going to want to go with A-Frame. I think A-Frame offers a much nicer sort of on-ramp, you know, learning curve and path to learning more about web VR. How can I learn A-Frame? You could subscribe to this channel, because I'm working on 11 A-Frame videos, and hopefully we'll release them sometime next week. They're sort of I've done them and redone them a couple of times now, so they're on their way, those videos. The documentation is outstanding. It's got a tutorial built in there. There's another tutorial about building Minecraft, I think, is linked in there. You know, I think the documentation does just such a wonderful job of sort of bringing people into the platform, bringing people into the framework, and understanding more about it. And joining the community. You know, the Slack channel for A-Frame is linked in the documentation, is excellent. There's always people there helping, and I think that's a very valid way of learning A-Frame. So documentation, there's a few tutorials on the web, and join the community, because the community is always willing to help. What are some good resources for learning WebGL? So I think it's called webglfundamentals.com. webglfundamentals.com. No, WebGL fundamentals. Yep, webglfundamentals.org. So that's a really good resource. I wonder if I can add a screen to this. No, I can't, because I'm recording on the PC and I'm using my Mac as a computer. But so webglfundamentals.org. I'll link that in the description below. There's also WebGL WebGL2fundamentals.org, but whilst that's relevant because WebGL2 is slowly being supported in more browsers over time, hopefully, and it has a great richer feature set, I think you want to stick with WebGLfundamentals.org. There is also a really good book by Tony Parisi. I'm just trying to find out what it's called. And it's on. It's an O'Reilly book, and I'll link it again down below. I'll link to the Amazon listing for it. Is WebGL up and running, building 3D graphics for the web? So it's an excellent book for sort of starting WebGL. And obviously the reason that you want to learn WebGL is because WebGL is how we put 3D graphics in the browser. So yeah, the Tony Parisi book, WebGL fundamentals, and actually there is a YouTuber, and I'm gonna find out what he's called. And again, I'll link to him. 2.0. There's a YouTuber called Sketchpunk Labs, all one word, and currently he's doing a series called Fun with WebGL 2.0. Read the book first, have a look at the WebGL fundamentals, and go through any exercises that you're able to go through, and then look at Fun with WebGL 2.0 by Sketchpunk Labs, because he's sort of done introduction. And actually, with his series, you can almost dive straight in because there's some excellent code examples. Have a look at that series. Have a look at his videos and learn there, because he eventually, I think recently, the last 2 videos that he's done, or maybe the 2 before the last one, have actually done WebVR. He's sort of like done vanilla WebVR. He's not using a framework or anything. He's just writing. He's kind of ends up writing his own little framework to interact with WebVR API via WebGL. Sorry, not via WebGL, but with WebGL. So, excellent resource. I'll link to all those things down below. And what are some good resources? And so the last question: should I build for mobile VR or desktop? Mobile VR or desktop? So I'm assuming, let's just say, I don't want to say that, whilst this is the lowest common denominator, it's the amount of these that are in the wild is, I would say untrackable. Like, people get these things. I get these I've got a whole shelf of fucking Google Cardboard stuff up there, and only a few of them actually any good. Same with the plastic VR headsets. For me, I don't know if you've ever used one of these. I find this one of the most uncomfortable headsets to wear, because it just sits. It has to sit like here for you to be able to focus on it. I was really impressed when I saw this. When I looked at it, I was like, oh my god, it looks soft. It looks comfortable. It's not like ABS plastic stuff, but in actual fact, it's one of the most uncomfortable VR headsets to wear. I much prefer the Gear VR. I think the Gear VR for me is a great mobile VR headset and a great mobile VR experience. Now, should you build for mobile VR or desktop? It depends on your project, man. I mean, desktop's great to build with because you get the nice 6 degrees of freedom. You can have room scale. You have the controllers, and you can do a lot of interaction with them. Now with the Gear VR controller, you get like a really basic 3DoF system where you could always teleport in mobile VR. It wasn't desktop, but you could always teleport in VR, but it wasn't desktop. For me personally, the beauty of WebVR comes in the fact that we can apply responsive design, responsive thinking to VR. you know, we can give like a really, really basic experience with this. If you have a look at like the WebVR experiments thing that Google released, it's really great for people, you know, to have an experience that doesn't require, that starts off with that we assume that you don't have a VR headset, and then it sort of slowly builds up and you get more interactivity and you get more thing. I think building for mobile VR is maybe not that again, it really depends on your project. I like building for mobile VR because I can show everyone at the same time. But at the same time, I love building for desktop because I have so much more freedom in terms of performance. Like you get about 60 frames a second on one of these, and it's not long before this starts getting sort of juddery and you know, the performance isn't as good, and it's not going to be as good at the moment. It's not going to be anywhere near a desktop VR experience. But sometimes your experience doesn't require the world's best fidelity and the world's best performance. So you can develop some sort of experience for WebVR on mobile, and then you just progressively enhance as it gets to desktop. Those are my feelings. So should I build for mobile VR or desktop? I think you should build with whatever you kind of you want your experience to be on. I think building for mobile VR, you know, is a good thing. I think that VR drastically needs some really, really great content, and not everyone's going to have. I don't even know how many vibes. What the last numbers were, 600,000 of, you know, Vive and Oculus put together. Might have been the last sort of numbers I heard. So that's not a lot of VR headsets out there. There's tons of mobile phones out there, and you just give like a really simple VR experience to them. But again, you might want to build something like Minecraft, and you probably don't want to do that on the phone. Or you might want to build something highly interactive, and you can't do that on the mobile phone. Over time, it just totally depends. I think building for it is valid though. Cool. That's 6 questions answered. I was going to belch, but I won't. 6 questions answered. 22 minutes. Let's finish it up before 23 minutes gets here. I'm going to be putting up those A-frame videos as soon as possible. I'll also have some other videos and video ideas to do at some point. But thanks for nobody watched this, I don't think. I looked at the stream and it doesn't look like anyone watched this live. Stream is healthy. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so no one watched this live. It's fine because I didn't put out a tweet or anything to say it was alive. But this was fun. One day I'll do it with an audience. Maybe we'll do a live Q&A, and I will put up some sort of tweet so people know that I'm live.